sort of 17, 18, for a lot of young people, it's still very heavily shaped by parents and other influences. So, if we talk about values and purpose, it's still, I think, quite heavily influenced by parents at that point. I think we're still, at 18, are you really clear on what your values are, or how have you had enough sort of experiences of your own to help test and shape that?
Yeah, that's right. And actually, are they your values, or are they somebody else's values that you're trying to live up to those expectations? And it's quite a big ask.
Yes.
Because I don't think you always know yourself, do you? It's like we were saying earlier on, going through something like adversity kind of helps you kind of, be a bit more in tune with what your values are and what it is you want to do.
Yeah, and I think that's that's the challenge, isn't it? Of when you go through something yourself, so it tests all of these things, doesn't it? It tests the strength of them. It tests how strongly you want to fight for these things. And I think that's the challenge, isn't it, of knowing what you're fighting for. And I think sometimes that's where you realize that you've been fighting for something that actually isn't that important. And that's when you choose to leave things behind, and you choose to take different options, different decisions.
Yeah. So what was the big life change for you then that made you sort of reflect on your values and kind of purpose? Was there a big life change?
I think there's been lots of things. If I'm being honest, I think there's been lots of things that have happened that I think have just really made me stop and think. And I think it is that fight for, I think it's that there are some people who come in and test them, and there are some people that come in and strengthen them. And I think I've been, in hindsight, it's not always been comfortable, but I think, I am grateful that for those people in helping me to see what was important to me, whether that was because they came in and tested them, or whether it's because they came in and empowered me to stand up for them, stand in that space for them. I think there's probably events, things that have happened that have probably had more of an influence, and there's probably some individuals that have had more of an influence. Whether they're aware of that or not, I don't know. But I think it's that there's just things that happen in life, aren't there, that just, like you said, with your cancer diagnosis, or, with work situations, they just force you to stop and think and question. Yeah. And we need those events, because otherwise we just continue. It's just that like a conveyor belt, isn't it, of just kind of rolling through. We need those times to just really make us stop and think of, who am I and what am I doing here? And am I, living the life that I want to live, or am I living a life that other people want for me? Am I living, somebody else's life, or am I living a life that's just being really heavily shaped and influenced by somebody else? And is that what I want? And we do need those times to really force us to stop and think. And they have to be uncomfortable, because if it's comfortable, we didn't do anything. No. So they have to be uncomfortable experiences. They're not uncomfortable forever. No, and right. Actually, like you described at the beginning, sometimes it makes life so much more full afterwards. Yeah. So it's just going through, but it's pushing through that period. You don't want to sit there. This is not a place to sit and spend lots of time, but they are really important. They are important times in our lives. But I think what we have a tendency to do is to try and avoid it, because it's not comfortable. So we'll bury our head in the sand, or we'll take a different route to try and avoid that from happening, or we just kind of complete denial that anything is going on. But these, they are important, and they're happening for a reason, but you need to sit with it and work it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And also take those steps afterwards, because I think there's quite a few people that will go through some big change, life-changing event, and know they want something different, but won't take the risk to move forward, and still back into that whole comfort zone, and still reflect, going, I can't, I no longer can do anything about that, because at the time is when you really feel that difference, and that push is not always there. So you've got to take that sign. They say, you know, there's always a sign. Take that sign and take it with it.
And you know, it's back into the comfort zone because it's familiar. But eventually familiar becomes uncomfortable. So it will go on, it will eventually, it will put you back in that position, and things will keep, you know, things will keep happening, and it will just keep coming up. It will keep coming up in different ways. You know, I do think that you can only ignore things for so long. It will just keep coming back. And yes, there is, you know, I get it. It is uncomfortable to take those first steps, but you're working your way forward to something that is what you want, not what anybody else wants. Is working to what you want. And I think that then it's the reward, isn't it? Of, yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, you've got to keep that momentum and consistency and keep that moving forward. But the reward for that is so much better than the comfortable and the familiar.